Well, hello and welcome once again to It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weber. So glad you could join me in the forest today. Have a great show for you, fairly loaded, basically giving some commentary on several things that have happened recently. Things that I don't think are too big a deal or too controversial, but I try to kind of dig deep into some things that a lot of people aren't saying, and sometimes I go into some other areas as well, whether that's for better or for worse. I'll let you be the judge of that. I just wanted to start off by saying, had an interesting thing happen the other day. My wife got me this really nice computer. I don't want to give the make out or anything like that. I don't want to, cause any slanderous talk or anything of that nature or anything. But anyway, I got this computer. I think it's about $900 for Christmas. And she got it for me because I'm going to school and doing this online program and the MBA and financial planning. And it's worked great this semester. Brand new computer, fast. Really have no complaints about it. And then the other day, as I was studying for my last final, which I'm probably going to take right after this recording today, it got on this screen, which I think they call a BIOS screen. I didn't do anything that I know of for this to happen, but anyway, I can't get out of this BIOS screen and call it customer service or whatever. And I find that after we discussed it and did a couple of things on the computer, I find that this computer has doesn't have a certain software installed for, I think it's the boot driver. And I'm, kind of incredulous. I'm not mean to the customer service guy, although I know sometimes I can get kind of mean. But anyway, but I'm just like, how did this thing work for 4.5 months and then all of a sudden fail? Or not really fail per se. I mean, it's repairable and everything, and it's under warranty, which is even better. But I don't know, not a computer expert. Can't figure out why something that worked that well for several months no longer works very well at all. I know that's kind of a first world problem, I suppose, compared to all the other problems in the world. So I'll be without it for a couple of weeks, but it's not the one I use my podcast for. That's my computer that I've been using. I've been using this computer for more like 4.5 years, and it's doing great as I talk into the microphone, and it's recording me right now. So, and it seems to work pretty well for my schoolwork and tests. So I'll be okay till then. It sure seems like, anyway. Anyway, that brings up the age-old question as to whether technology is really better for us or worse for us. Does it really make our lives better when it brings in these new problems for us? But it's great, though, because I can do podcasting on microphones and computers and all these various softwares and what have you. So I'm thankful and grateful for that. So one theme that comes up from time to time on this show, I have a lot of different themes, and when I try to dig deep and look at context and nuances and things of that nature, one thing, and I mean, this could be my fault. I admit I could be hiding under a rock lately, so this could be totally my fault, okay? But I always talk about things or want to talk about things that I wonder, do they bother other people as much as they bother me? Certain things that crop up in life. And I happen to be, so I have to lead you into the story here, of course. I don't want to get to it too quickly. But I happened to be flipping through the channels the other day, and I think it's on the game show channel. There's a new version out of Tic-Tac-Doe, which of course was an old show, been around, had several incarnations. Basically a trivia show where if you get the question right, you get an X or an O, and you have to get a tic-tac-toe in order to win the prize. And there's supposedly this corny dragon that's hiding behind one of the screens somewhere, and I can't remember the exact rule of whether you lose if you find the dragon or if you, I don't know, you just lose your turn. I don't know what the story is. The show, of course, is obviously different now, and it has that kind of weird, modern, dark game show feeling to it. But anyway, I turned it on, and I think the trivia questions are multiple choice now, which I don't remember that either. But anyway, I turned it on, and I noticed that it's now being hosted by the lovely Brooke Burns, who's been doing game shows for quite some time now. She's, I looked her up. She's only a few months younger than me, and spent like half her life doing game shows, maybe a little bit more than that. But that's good. She's still very lovely, of course, still very attractive. Doing a great job on that show. But anyway, as I was watching it, I had to think, I wonder what happened. I wonder what's going on these days with Wink Martindale, who hosted one of the old versions, maybe the original version in the late 70s, and I think it went into the early and mid 80s, so I was a kid when it was still coming on TV. So, because I was thinking, like, well, it seems like Wink Martindale and Bob Eubanks, they've been around forever, and I'm sure they're still alive and kicking somewhere. Eubanks is still alive. However, I was sad to find out that Wink Martindale passed this year on April 15th at the age of 91. I heard absolutely nothing about it in the media. Some people, of course, obviously you'll hear many things about somebody who's very popular or has a huge following and passed away. Everybody will know about it. But then other people who haven't been in the limelight for some time, I hear nothing about them. And like I said, some of that may be my fault for not keeping up with things and being more diligent on that as I should. But yeah, he passed away from, but he hosted the old Tic-Tac-Toe, as I said. He passed away from lymphoma at the ripe old age of 91, and I was really sad to hear that. He was a DJ, I think originally from Tennessee, knew Elvis back in the day, had a really great voice, and, you know, I loved his name, Wink. You know, I wish I had a really kind of a special name like that. I guess Frank is a special name too, and I can get into its meaning and everything, but I think Wink was actually, in his case, was something short for something, I should say. But yeah, so I was saddened, but I was also kind of mad that this information isn't disseminated as out there as much as I'd like it to be, and especially when it comes to old game show hosts. Like, you know, Bob Barker passed away, been almost 2 years ago now, actually, and obviously everybody knew that because he was Bob Barker and he was on The Price is Right every day for 35 years, as well as some other game shows, and everybody knew it. But then Wink, you know, did, you know, a number of game shows and was really, you know, I was looking at his Wikipedia page, was a pop culture icon, and yet we hadn't seen him, it seemed like, in 20 years. So very sad. He was out in Rancho Mirage enjoying retirement, sounds like. And then there was one other mention that I want to give out today, and I don't know a lot about this guy. I'm a big country music fan. Johnny Rodriguez apparently just passed, I guess, on Friday, and he was 73, from San Antonio. Apparently given more of a Tejano or Texas country music genre, so I don't really know as much about him, and actually having a hard time remembering some of the songs off some of his big hits off the top of my head. I was getting him confused with Freddie Fender. Desperado was one of his hits that I can remember. That's one of his one-word hits there. I didn't know as much about him. I know I heard him on the radio a few times, but then apparently I haven't been watching the news lately, so I kind of just backdoor hear about his passing. But as always, very sad when anyone passes away, and especially now that I'm older and kind of, well, I like to think wiser and more knowledgeable, but sometimes I'm not always sure about that. But, when people from your childhood, they produce something good or you liked them and, brought them into your homes or listen to their music, they almost, even though you never met them, they do kind of seem like family. And so you want to honor them and remember them and just be glad that you had the opportunity to, I guess, know them in some way when they were still around. So, but anyway, rest in peace, Wink and Johnny, and you'll be missed for sure, and we love you. All right, so the last thing I want to get into today, some of you may have been expecting me to comment on this. The Catholic Church, and I'm not Catholic, by the way, I have to put the disclaimer on there, but as far as, being a Christian organization and the church, when you look at the church as the body of Christ in general, regardless of what your background is, I am interested in all those issues and who becomes leaders and what kind of ideas come out of the churches and so forth. So anyway, this past Thursday, the Catholic Church elected a new pope who's going by Pope Leo the 14th, whose real name is Bob, by the way. He's Bob from Chicago. First time they ever had an American pope. Maybe that means something for America. Maybe it doesn't. Kind of hard to say. Anyway, I had a comment, of course, first. The hype was on his election was just way too much. And apparently, I only watch certain media, and maybe I shouldn't watch any at all, to be honest with you, but apparently some of the media were kind of who cares and didn't understand the hubbub, and then some of the other media was almost kind of too joyous, too hyped about it. And of course, like me, I try to just be kind of even keel, maybe somewhere in the middle on this. I did liken it a little bit to the scene in The Jerk where Steve Martin's character, Navin Johnson, is very excited about the new phone book coming. The new phone book's here, the new phone book's here, and his boss can't understand why he's so excited about the new phone book. So it reminded me a little bit about that scene. It is an important event, though, and I know there's a lot of stories out there. He's only been Pope here for 3 or 4 days now. Certain different stories, different takes on what he believes or what he doesn't believe in, and is he going to be like the last guy or not? As a Christian, I'm going to give you kind of my overall take on this, and then I'm kind of being an outsider to the Catholic Church. Some people may or may not appreciate that, but it gives me a little bit of a different take on this whole thing, and I'm going to put a positive spin on it, by the way. Okay, I'm going to try not to go too deep into the weeds and give you what I think, and when it comes to theology or dogma or anything like that. But the fact that they have a new guy who is fresh and we don't really know too much about him in practice, I think is a great opportunity for them to maybe refocus and possibly prioritize their message on Jesus and promoting his word, as opposed to promoting other things like politics and social issues, and some of which can be construed as policies that might be more geared toward protecting their organization, if that makes sense. Just construed that way. Maybe they're that way, maybe they're not, but you have to have a certain, I think, priority in the... If you look at churching as a business, you have to have certain priority in that, and I don't know if Pope Francis had that or not, to be totally honest with you, when he was talking about all of his agendas. And the reason is because this is always first and foremost about promoting Jesus in the world and reaching out to people and telling them about how they can have a relationship with him. Now, once they have a relationship with him and they grow in that relationship and they become mature, then the issues of conscience, whether that involves politics or social issues or whatever, then those become very real to people. It's not supposed to be the other way around. If you put politics, social issues, and all that first, it actually diminishes the product. It's very much a situation where you get, like you have in Hollywood, where you've got some tremendously great actors and actresses, directors, other people out there whose work you really enjoy and you think they've done a tremendous job and you're big fans of them. And then they decide to comment on something political or social that they may or may not know a whole lot about or maybe have much of a context about. That kind of diminishes their product because you see them in a movie and you're like, oh, this is the guy who thinks such and such about this other thing. But it's the same thing actually in church, and I think I tried to make this point when I got on my rant a few months ago with the Pope Francis and the local bishop here regarding a letter they sent to the church. And the thing that I was trying to say then, you can believe in those things. They're things that seem to be tangentially related to the Bible and gospel and being a good human being, being a good servant of Christ. But if you get things out of order, it actually seems to make less sense and maybe becomes less important to people, and they don't listen quite as well. So hopefully Pope Leo the 14th will focus more on Christ, will focus more on the gospel. There are other churches that probably need to do that as well. I mean, there's no perfect church out there. They're all run by humans. I honestly don't know how much the Holy Spirit is in a lot of them, to be honest with you, if you want me to, give you my honest to goodness Christian view. So he's got those opportunities there. The other thing that I would say in closing is that, and I know a lot of people, they make a lot out of divisions in the church, and it is sad that there are divisions in the church, but part of what's going on too, though, is people are different. They have different tastes, they have different likes, they have different emphases. You can all believe in the same God and the same Christ, but there's all these differences still because people are different, or they have a different culture, or they grew up in a different place. And I could go into like a history lesson and specifics on which churches that I'm talking about over all this. But what needs to happen among Christians everywhere is to recognize that, yes, we are different, but like all of humanity and being a human being, we also have many, many, many more things in common than we actually have in different, or in terms of differences. And so you have to accentuate those similarities. You have to accentuate the similar beliefs and theology. The Catholic Church has a lot of congruence with both Protestantism and the Orthodox Church. I mean, you may have to go into some specifics on some other churches there, but generally speaking, there's a lot of congruence, a lot of common beliefs, core values, that sort of thing. Those need to be brought to the surface and rallied around, and then go out and spread the word to the world and bring people to Christ, which, as I understand it, by the way, if you can get a lot of people to him, then you might hasten his return. And I don't know, the world really needs him and his love and his service. Seems like more than ever before. It's so crazy around here. But he's got control over everything. And so anyway, I pray and hope that this new pope will help in those regards, and that this will be the beginning of a new era of salvation and redemption throughout the world, and that we can make the world a better place and bring about that kingdom of heaven on earth that I've been longing for so long. So, man, the time has really flown by here today. That's all that I really wanted to say about that. Obviously, you're welcome. I mean, I'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts, whether it's comment after the comment in the comment section or a direct message, or really kind of looking for this to be, I've always wanted this to be a more interactive show, and being busy with school and everything, you know, I still want to do video and still want to do guests, but I'm just not, I don't know, this format seems to be working pretty well right now, but as always, who knows what holds out for the future. So, but yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love for you to get some, to have you share the show with whoever you run across in your life and your world, and hit the subscribe button and tell them, yeah, there's this really cool guy, Frank, on It's a Frankly Hairy podcast, and he says that he comes from a jungle. I think I haven't told you that before. You know, I say those. You know, the hairy in the jungle is like basically my body hair. You know, because I'm a pretty hairy guy, but that's where that comes from. But I think it's a nice name for the show, and I think the ratings are doing pretty well. It seems like we're getting more and more hits. But anyway, I think I've reached the point where I'm just rambling now. So anyway, I'm so glad that you joined me here in the forest again this week on It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. Look forward to seeing you again next week. This is your host, Frank Weber, signing off. I love you. Have a great week. Take care. Bye.